This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream. Sign up for CuriosityStream using the link in the description, and you'll also get access to my video streaming service, Nebula, for free. AM, the album that propelled the Arctic Monkeys into worldwide superstardom. With singles like Do I Wanna Know and Are You Mine, it sounded like the group had finally mastered the sludgier sound they'd been chasing since their transition with Humbug. Combining garage rock riffs, R&B rhythms, and irresistible hooks allowed AM to become one of the Monkeys' most successful projects to date, topping the charts in over a dozen countries and becoming one of the UK's best-selling vinyl albums of the decade. 5 years later, the group's following record would take one giant leap forward. But to where? Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino is the Arctic Monkeys like you had never heard them before, trading in their arena-sized anthems for a sci-fi-inspired jazz lounge concept album. It's an evolution almost no one saw coming. As a result, it would divide the fandom, being their most polarizing and weirdest record yet. But few bands today are this brave or ambitious. Now, a few years out, I think it's finally time to admit, Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino is the Arctic Monkeys' misunderstood masterpiece. In the years following AM, frontman Alex Turner suffered from writer's block and found himself struggling to find direction for a new Monkeys album. He had also lost interest in writing love songs after working on the last Shadow Puppets' second LP, Everything You've Come to Expect. It was Federico Fellini's 1963 film, 8½, that would eventually help Turner find his course. In the film, a famous Italian director suffers from stifled creativity while attempting to direct an epic science fiction film. It resonated with Turner's own creative clog, reminded him of childhood memories, and more importantly, set his attention on the sci-fi genre. When Turner's manager, Ian McAndrew, gifted Turner a Steinway Vertigram piano for his 30th birthday, ideas began rushing in. From a spare room, Turner would create a makeshift studio with the standing piano at its core, dubbing the space the lunar surface. With just the piano and his thoughts, the record would be Turner's form of interstellar escapism. Even part of the album's title, Tranquility Base, refers to the site of the Apollo 11 moon landing. The frontman would direct his own song suite documenting a dystopian future from a modern moon resort, spawning the idea of inhabiting a jazz lounge club after watching Jean-Pierre Melville's Le Samurai. The album plays out like the rambling stream of consciousness from the estranged lounge singer at the Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino. Turner was reading Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman during the writing of the album, a book that contrasts the dystopian worlds presented in George Orwell's 1984 with Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Postman says Orwell feared that what we hate will ruin us, while Huxley feared that what we love will ruin us. Where Orwell saw a future where the truth and information would be concealed from us, Huxley thought we would drown in a sea of irrelevant information and be reduced to passivity and egoism.
Everybody's on a barge floating down the endless stream of great TV.
Playing the role of a washed-up rock star has Turner taking a much more subdued and introspective approach than his persona on AM, using the sci-fi trope to comment on the dystopian nature of society's future. It's him sitting on the lunar surface, looking down on Earth.
So when you gaze at planet Earth from outer space,
while doing so, the cosmonaut calls out two specific years.
1984, 2019.
The first, alluding to Orwell's 1984, a novel where humans are oppressed by the government and the technologies around them, and 2019, the year the original Blade Runner was set.
What do you mean you've never seen Blade Runner?
And a film that reflects on the nature of humanity and the effects of technology on civilization. Works of science fiction that only fuel Turner's anguish towards current society, as he's unable to discern the difference between imagination, reality, and entertainment.
Breaking news, they take the truth and make it fluid.
He shares how he views the relationship between humans and social media, critiquing the characters and unfiltered thoughts created in the virtual world.
Every whimsical thought that enters my mind.
And how every experience ends up documented online for everyone's viewing pleasure.
Dance as if somebody's watching, 'cause they are.
There's a comment on how far we've strayed from authentic emotions and experiences, using the idea of love via prescription medicine straight from Huxley's Brave New World.
Love came in a bottle with a twist of cap. Let's all have a swig and do a...
Turner is on a quest for what is true and for who can provide the answers. Looking for a word to describe humanity's detachment from reality, he ironically searches for the answer on Google.
I'll use the search engine.
He mentions a rise of the machines,
Rise of the machine.
outlining our infatuation with our own devices and how technology's ease of access gives us irrelevant and overwhelming information, potentially making us dumber in the process. The information-action ratio is a concept directly from Postman's book. It's the idea that despite having access to all of the information in the world, we don't know what to do with it, leaving us paralyzed by choice and caring little about everything rather than a lot about what is actually important. Being sure to distance himself from any form of social media, the spaceman is still guilty of getting lost down the internet's many rabbit holes.
At the time that I got sucked into a hole through a handheld device.
The Man on the Moon foresees a future where religion, too, has been reduced to a technological process. One where science has trumped religion and nothing is sacred anymore.
In time for my weekly chat with God on video call.
Reaching God via video call and referencing Jesus in a casual modern scenario dismisses the elevation of those religious figures altogether.
Jesus in the day spa, filling out the information form.
All of this commentary stems from Alex Turner's writer's block and feelings of alienation. In the book Her Name Was Lola, a middle-aged author struggles with writer's block, similar to Fellini's 8.5 and Turner's own situation. The book includes the line, "There are so many Lolas." But Lola is also the shortened form of Dolores, meaning sorrows in Spanish. On American Sports, Turner is using a play on words to say, "I never thought I'd meet so many sorrows."
That I need so many Lolas.
And so, he has taken refuge at the Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino in order to ponder philosophical questions and forget about his worries.
Take it easy for a little while, come and stay with us. It's such an easy flight.
The frontman feels so removed from modern existence that he imagines himself on the moon in order to process what is happening on present-day Earth.
Where I ponder all the questions, but just manage to miss them all.
In Star Treatment, Turner makes reference to Leonard Cohen's track, Dress Rehearsal Rag.
I'm a big name in deep space. Ask your mates, but Golden Boy's in bad shape.
I said to myself, where are you, golden boy? Where's your famous golden touch?
A song about insecurities and the isolation that accompanies fame. But you wouldn't know that just from reading its muddled lyrics. Turner said that hearing Cohen talk about ideas like that, pulling one thing out and it not making much sense, spurred him onto approaching Tranquility Base in a similar way. It's why the album's lyrics appear to be overly cryptic. Turner is purposely obscuring the words in his music to make it more poetic and intriguing, despite not really saying anything particularly insightful.
Feeling that the whole thing may well just end up too clever for its own good.
Because behind this persona and the delusional dialect is a lost boy who just wanted to be
One of the strokes.
After recording the majority of demos, Turner invited drummer Matt Helders into the writing process. Initially, they were unsure of how they would record these songs for an Arctic Monkeys project, discussing whether or not Turner should just release this as a solo record. They eventually decided against the idea and invited guitarist Jamie Cook in for his thoughts. Cook was taken back by the change in direction, but was still fairly excited by what Turner had come up with. And by mid-2017, the entire band was performing and recording the project together. Every member of the Monkees was repurposed during the process of creating a vintage sound for this futuristic space lounge. Turner's presence had never been stronger, with many of his vocal takes coming from those original home recordings.
Dancing in my underpants. I'm gonna run for government.
Helders' drumming seemed fairly underutilized, playing with more restraint than on previous records. But he understood that he was there to support the tracks, and his kit has some added punch and crisp to ensure it's not completely forgotten in the mix. As guitar was no longer at the forefront, Cook recorded his ideas to complement Turner's demos while also sprinkling in a handful of silky solos. And Nick O'Malley's bass lines feel right at home, shining throughout much of the record. The entire album is a statement of excess and grandeur, which can make it overwhelming upon first hearing it. But Tranquility Base definitely rewards repeat listens because of its intricate production quirks and Turner's quotable quips.
I'll be by the platform if you need to get a hold.
No singles were released leading up to the album's release, and in good measure. The record is such a thematically cohesive listen that it's best consumed as an album. Its left-field nature didn't stop the record from being nominated for the Mercury Prize and a Grammy for Best Alternative Album. It became the band's 6th consecutive #1 debut in the UK and the country's fastest-selling vinyl record in 25 years. Tranquility Base Hotel Casino is a concept album touching on authenticity, the overindulgence of technology, and the loss of all that is sacred. But Turner doesn't address these topics as much as he just dances around them. It's a quirky, wordy, and imaginative LP about paranoia and alienation. As Jonah Weiner of Rolling Stone said, it's a captivatingly bizarre album about the role of entertainment, the desire to escape into it, and the desire to create it. It was the best direction the Arctic Monkeys could have gone after a 5-year gap, and 5 precedingly progressive albums. And I think it goes slightly underappreciated. So before you write it off as exhausting or self-indulgent, give it a few more listens, and you might just hear it for what it is. A fine psychedelic pop record, and one man's temporary interstellar getaway. Pure science fiction.
Some science fiction, though.
Alex Turner imagined a lunar resort and a future where we colonized the moon. But how would we actually accomplish that? And more importantly, why would we do it in the first place? Space researchers plan to have astronauts living and working on the moon by the 2030s, meaning we're probably just a few decades away from truly visiting a real Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino. Return to the Moon explores whether or not humanity could really survive on another world. Give the doc a watch using the first link below. It's pretty damn interesting. The Arctic Monkeys took a risk with their 6th record, and my creator friends and I have teamed up to do the same. We've built our own streaming platform called Nebula. There, you'll find tons of exclusive content and originals from creators like Adam Neely, Lessons from a Screenplay, Tom Scott, and a ton of others. On Nebula, our content is ad-free, and we don't have to worry about some of YouTube's restrictions or its algorithm. And we've partnered with CuriosityStream so that we can keep the streaming dream alive. CuriosityStream was created by one of the founders of the Discovery Channel. It's home to some of the best documentaries on the internet. There's enough space content on the platform to last you until we actually colonize the moon. So here's the deal. Sign up for CuriosityStream, and you'll also get Nebula for free. There's a link in the box below to get started. And if you use my link, you'll get the pair of streaming platforms at 26% off. That's $14.79 for a full year of CuriosityStream and Nebula. You spend more on small Uber Eats orders, so give these platforms a try. It really helps support this channel and helps me deliver more videos to you on a regular basis. But tell me, what are your thoughts on Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino? Let me know in the comments below. Also, something I thought was kind of a cool Easter egg. The album is named after the Apollo 11 landing site. It has 11 tracks, and it was released on May 11th. Coincidence? Maybe. Anyway, follow me at MoreMiddle8 on Twitter and Instagram, and that's it for me. Again, thanks for watching, and keep listening.